So hello, good evening, and welcome to my TED Talk here. The Pied Piper of the 21st century. I think we'll need a bit of a refresher on what the Pied Piper is, no? So, the Pied Piper, right? It's this medieval myth of this, flute player who drove a plague of rats away from a city, but after not being compensated properly, he played this sweet, melodic, harmonic tune and led all the kids away, taking them away from their parents onto their oblivion. I'm glad we're cut up. So, why the 21st century and the Pied Piper? What's the connection here? So, the 21st century, right? Wow, a lot of things have happened, right? We've discovered new ways of transportation, new ways of communication. And one of the biggest things nowadays is social media, right? It's all the fuss. We all talk about it. Social media this, social media that. But I don't think we are focusing to talk on what really should matter, which is that there's a very big problem at the core of social media we really don't like to talk about that much. But before that, real quick, let's talk about some foundations. What is social media? Well, it's a technology to allow people to communicate, right? Share ideas. It's a platform for that, right? And it's meant to bring people together and allow communities to form, people to share ideas with the world. And well, to render to Caesar what is to Caesar, it has allowed people to, from long distances, to connect with one another, share, build, or at least what it ideally should be. In reality, social media, more than bringing us together as a society, is tearing us apart. Sounds a bit contradictory, right? Story of opposites. But why? Why is it tearing us apart? Well, as we know, social media is made for pleasure, right? There's nothing wrong with that, we may think. But most people don't realize that pleasure can be quite dangerous. Social media, I'm here to argue, percent, I'd say, really is alienating us. It is dehumanizing us. It is distracting us from the real problems of the world, and by doing so, allowing an ease of control over us, polarizing us, dumbing us down as a society. So let's set some foundations for what I mean by that. Algorithms. We've all heard about algorithms in social media, right? So what are algorithms? They're this thing, basically, in which, depending on what you look at in social media will feed you more of this. You like looking at videos of puppies, you'll get more videos of puppies. You like cat videos, you like cooking videos, you'll get more of that. You like watching Donald Trump, you'll get more Donald Trump. You like watching Putin, you will get more Putin. Are you starting to see the problem? You will get more of what you like, of what you believe in, of what you think. In school, right, in TOK, we've looked at this concept of like echo chambers quite a lot. The problem with that echo chamber thing, right, is that if you're only listening to what you believe, to what you think, you are no longer critically thinking, are you? You're just following what is told because you personally believe in that. People, rather than being individuals, become a mass. They become a herd. Everyone's saying, oh, let's go over here, let's go to the right, or oh, let's go to the left, and all that kind of stuff. And you just go with it because you're just going with the flow. That is what social media is selling. It is simply making people stop thinking, and there is another big problem with that. What do you look at in social media? Is it relevant things, or is it just you're just doom scrolling on and on and on and on your phone, watching videos of things that don't matter? What's the problem with that? If people people get addicted to social media, right? It is designed to be addicted. And when people are just so focused on these things, right, they're alienated. They no longer think about people. They're so dead focused on their phones that they don't think about the problems of the real world. But not only that, but if you're just, like I was saying earlier, looking at things that agree with what agree with you, you no longer you can't really tell the difference between fact and fiction, truth or lie. I'd like to quote here philosopher Hannah Arendt. She says that the sad truth is that evil is done by people who never make up their minds to do good and evil. If people are so unable to discern, to tell what's right from wrong, how can we make sure that we're not just doing what we're told? How can people that are on a platform that is essentially just getting rid of that ability to discern, make good decisions, when politicians are just telling them to do what they're told? Do you see where I'm going with this problem? So, going more into depth. Another problem, right? As I was saying, trivialities, right? Social media is just going down into this loophole of endless and endless trivialities, things that don't matter anymore. And because people are so distracted, they no longer read. They no longer want to study history. They no longer want to read books. They no longer want to learn. They just want to spend time on their phones looking at irrelevant stuff. And when that happens, well, you don't learn, right? Where do we learn ethics from? Morality, from discussing with humans, from reading from books, learning philosophy. How can we make sure we don't repeat the mistakes from history if we don't study history? But people don't care about none of that anymore. They just care about doom scrolling on their phones. And again, to quote the philosopher Hannah Arendt, the ideal subject of a totalitarian regime, right, is not the conceived Nazi or communist, but people who can no longer tell the difference between right and wrong. Scary, isn't it? We're living in a world where people are losing their values because they're just looking at things on social media. How many times have you seen people say, oh, I saw this on TikTok? I know teachers have seen that all the time. Oh, I saw this on TikTok, and that's their source. People can't tell the difference between what's right and wrong. And that is a problem. And there is another big problem with social media. Remember this echo chamber thing that was going on earlier? Well, if you're with algorithms, if you're just getting things you just agree with, people become polarized. You get people on one end and people on this other end. And now people they don't longer agree with one another, and they're just saying, I'm right, you're wrong, and we don't have proper discussions anymore. We just have people arguing with one another, back and forth. And again, here's another thing politicians and companies take advantage of. They just say, hey, you guys think this, right? You agree with this. I agree with you. Follow me. Vote for me. And that kind of stuff. We've seen that happen. I know I talked about Donald Trump earlier, but he did that quite a lot during his campaigns with social media. People get radicalized overly with the right, and he just says things that agree with them, appeal to them, and they follow them. This is basically what you get in social media nowadays. You get people just expressing opinions over and over again without giving much thought into it. You know, like, they just stoke things to stoke division. And algorithms, they are designed to promote radical content. They're not designed to promote discussion. They're designed to promote big radical stuff that really doesn't lead anywhere. Why? Because that's what sells more. It attracts people to get the app and stuff. Oh, let's spend more time. Oh, let's make more money off advertising. And really, it's an invasion of idiots. To quote Umberto Eco here, social media gives legions of idiots the right to speak what they want, when they spoke, what people spoke in a bar when they're, let's say, a little drunk, could do without hurting anyone. But now, well, they do, because they're talking with the entire world. It is the invasion of idiots, basically. And on that topic, idiocy, social media is dumbing us down. Why? Because if you're just doom scrolling on and on and on and on, right? You get addicted to it. And if you get addicted to something, again, you become dependent on it. How many hours do you spend on your phone? 10? 5? I don't know. How many hours do you spend talking to your family? Probably less. And that's sad, isn't it? And here comes the biggest danger of social media. I don't know if you've heard of this little book. It's called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. He feared a dystopian society in which people wouldn't be controlled by fear or pressure, but with pleasure. People will give into what they love, and that will allow them to be controlled. Do you not like looking at your phones? Do you not like scrolling and on, watching videos and all that kind of stuff? People like it. And that's the worst part. It is a method of control that people give into. Okay, I'm a bit pessimistic, I'd say. So what am I saying that we do? To quote here, American historian and activist Howard Zinn. You can't be neutral on a moving train. If things are heading in a certain direction, a deadly direction, it is our responsibility to do something about this. I'm not saying let's overthrow the government. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we need to take small actions to limit the control social media exerts over us. Like, parents, stop giving kids their phones and just rather embrace them. Like, don't let them just doom scroll on and on and on. Talk with them. Let them read. And people, I invite all of you here, for once, let's stop, let's get off our phones, and let's for once think, let's read a book. That is our responsibility here. That's how we can prevent this little piper from leading us to a doom. Because if we don't change through it, if we remain neutral on this moving train that is social media, we're gonna end up so dumbed down that we won't be able to think anymore. And well, it's better to prevent things before they get worse, isn't it? And with that, my dear friends, I conclude my TED Talk, and I hope you learned something. Read a book. Seriously, read books, read books.